Yeah.
You are dark and we are live.
I'm on the dark side.
Welcome to our Silver Lining Podcast live here on Saturday. Adam's working on his technology there. Adam's getting quick at this, lost his laptop, immediately jumped on his phone and is trying to get that all squared away. Good job, Adam.
Oh, thanks for the vote of confidence. Can you see me or should I turn this off? Is this better? Was that better?
That's different, at least. Your background's lighter, so that's
the important thing. Can you see the hats? That's good. I can move this microphone out of the way now.
Yeah. Very good. You did that. We have Missy moderating for us on her own. Thank you for that, Missy.
Thank you, Missy.
Lindsay's in the air as we speak, traveling. Kimberly's with us. Kimberly's having a rough day too, health-wise. Glad to see she's with us, and she said she's hanging in there. Okay, very good. And you notice in the notes up a little earlier than that, if you scroll up in the notes, Garrett got some, I don't know, Garrett, if that's good news or bad news, Garrett Elliott, that the biopsy's malignant, looks really small. They're saying stage 1. So I guess the good news is you caught it early in the stages, but of course that's a battle no matter when you catch it. So we certainly wish the best for you, and those of us who pray for the best outcome for you. Thank you all for joining us today. We want to continue talking about or continue the momentum. Good grief. Tracy Wheely is up late. It looks like 11:30 there in the UK. Okay.
You know what I found out about the UK, Rex?
What?
You know, my mind thought that Europeans, guys, when you went to the beach wore Speedos, but apparently that's only in France and Italy and Spain. In the UK, they laugh at that. That's a joke. Don't show up in Speedos at the beach in England. They're more Americanized than that.
I'm glad you told me in case I was going in my Speedo
to a beach in England.
Right. Okay.
Just to let you know.
Okay. Well. Thanks for the culture tip there, Adam.
Sure, no problem. That's what I'm here for.
Okay. Lisa,
I'll be here all day.
Lisa P was diagnosed with stage 3 ovarian in December and started chemo in February. That's a tough battle too. See, no one is spared. And that's why we're continuing the podcast. That's why we're going the direction we're going. No one is spared. Yet we're all blessed. One of the great silver linings for me and Adam, we've said this a few times, I don't think we can say it enough, is this community and what it's done for our healing, and so many of you that have talked about fit in the healing. This really is a safe place where we can connect, and that's what those of us that need healing, whatever type, we need a safe place, and we need to connect with people. This is a great place for that. And it's strange, but we can do this, I think, in our community because it's a family atmosphere. You know, in your family, you can go from talking about Speedos to cancer and back to Speedos again in a heartbeat. So we all laugh, all have a little bit of dark humor, probably.
We have to. It's a must.
It is, as Kimberly reminds us, sending healing vibes to all who need them. And that's all of us at one point or another. And so we're glad to continue this platform. We also want to say, you know, we talked about starting the Patreon. And tomorrow is the real start of it. Tomorrow's the first Patreon event for those who are on Patreon. But we want to keep the other people posted too. Because as we said, the community is not going to change because of the Patreon channel. In fact, the community will just get more because eventually what happens on the Patreon channel is going to be available to the people in the rest of the community. And so we don't mind keeping that. Well, at least the interviews are going to be something like the live chat. We're starting tomorrow, having our first. I keep calling it the wrong thing, Adam. What are we calling it?
It's a Zoom meeting with Patreon members that can talk to each other, talk to us about anything and everything. It's just like hopefully, as I envision it, we're all going to have a box, and there's going to be like 50 pictures and boxes, and everybody's going to have their box. And then you raise your hand and you talk, and then the other person raises their hand and then they talk, and we all learn from each other. We can ask, we can have fun, we can whatever. It's more of a it's not a lot. Well, it is live because we're all going to be live, but it's not like there's one topic. It could this is like a conversation. You're sitting around a couch with 50 people that want to chit chat, and it's going to be just a big chit chat fest.
Yeah. And we love that. We wish we could do more of that with everyone. When we went to Salt Lake earlier in the year, did a meet and greet there. We stayed in a Verbo, and it was me and my wife, Lisa, and Adam and Kimberly and Lindsay. And we got to do that. We got to sit up on the couch. A couple of you went to 2 a.m, Adam?
Yeah, we were talking. We were all, and the topics are just all over the board. It's just how when you get a normal conversation with somebody, you could just go from one thing to another to another to another. So yeah,
and we love this community. We love that opportunity that we're gonna have. So that'll be the first, the first Patreon event that's happening tomorrow. As Tracy said, we all need to laugh. And that's one reason for which we love this community. So we want to continue that. And of course, when there's trial news about the Vallow Daybell trials, and I'll just, I guess, refer to them like that, but the trials coming up or past trials, we'll certainly talk about that because we're still interested. We'll talk about not too many other true crime things, although there's a horrific, just so you know, a horrific crime here in St. George over the last few days where a young man transitioned to be a young woman, and 2 nights ago walked in, shot both of her parents dead, tried to kill her brother and his wife who lived in the basement. They had locked the door and escaped through a window. There's a police hunt for that, found her now, and she's in custody. And I'm bringing that up because Lisa, being the ever considerate person she is, noticed that the grandson of the couple, so it'd be the nephew of this person that killed her parents, he started a GoFundMe and had a very nice tribute to them. I believe it was on Facebook. And Lisa reached out to him because she is caring, told him about the community, told him, her condolences, how we felt for him. We've had the experience of having a family member kill family members, and recommended this community to him. And of course, we contributed to the GoFundMe because the expenses that are involved. So who knows? Maybe we'll have him on at some point. Probably not right now, but whenever he feels ready. But situations like that, yes, we will maybe comment on, but this is more than the true crime. This is the collateral damage from true crime, the trauma that causes in all the family member lives. And Adam and I are working today. We have a list of about four optimists and another person that we're going to be asking for interviews. So we'll start posting, we hope on Tuesday. We'll hope to have an interview done by Tuesday. And our next podcast will be one of y'all, an optimist. We'll hear your story, hear how you're healing, your stories, what happened. What else do we want to hear from?
Well, Obviously, I put a post out today on Facebook and just mentioned, hey, we've had several optimists on, and their story has helped other people, and I just feel like, and to be honest with you, I really think everybody has something in their life that they've had an experience where they could contribute, something that they learned from it, something that helped them, that maybe help you. And I always feel like anytime I hear an interview with somebody who has a completely different experience than what I've had, it helps me heal more. It helps me understand more. It gives me more empathy. And so I think anybody, it's an open call. And so I think the last time I checked, there were some people that were leaving messages saying, I want to do it. And some people said, I want to do it, but I'm a little nervous. And that's fine. If you're not ready, you're not ready. And that's great. But if you feel like you can, share your story with us, Rex and I would love to interview you on here and see if you can help somebody else that's watching. And then really it's one of these things that's just going to just go like this over and over and over again. And I feel like, lots of people can come to this podcast and get support, get healed, get love, all those things.
Very good. And talking about that tragedy here in St. George, Kathy White said, it's said that the killer stated, and that's the fact, killer stated they have no remorse. She said, I hate them and I'd do it again. And she said about trying to kill the brother, she said, well, that wasn't my main goal, but if I would have got him, that would have been fine too. So think of the trauma of that brother and his wife barely escaping that, and all of the questions, Adam, could I have done more? Should I have,
yeah, what did I not see coming? Why didn't I see that coming from him? Like, was I not observing him, or was it just something that he just snapped in the middle? Or, your brain will take you all kinds of places when you start thinking about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And not a sudden snap thing. Apparently last year they had a restraining order on the person.
Oh.
And so, but who knows? We don't have any details yet other than, the few we got in the news there.
Yeah. And so, let's just say a month ago, we were on here talking and we said, hey, things happen all the time. There's always something happening, and we're just not expecting it in life for something to happen. And then that happens to that family, the last couple of days in St. George. And then somewhere in Alabama, something's going to happen. It's just, there's always something that you're not expecting. And these are life unexpected events that, Rex and I had to deal with 4 years ago. And so everybody, like Rex said, and it's not, a lot of it's not going to be as crazy as what happened in St. George or in our family or something like that. But everybody will have something that they have to deal with. And to me, to be able to share it, sharing it on here, I feel at least it helped me with my healing. And it was more therapy to talk about it. And even the optimists that have come on before, like Denise and Charlene, they all said they were scared to death to come on. But when they did, it felt easy, because Rex and I don't ask any hard questions. Let you just tell what you want to tell. We don't force you to do anything. And they both said after the experience that they're glad they did it. They felt like, they had a ton lifted off their chest. So, this is, obviously, there's things that are going to be happening, and I think it will help a lot of us, watching these stories.
And along with that, I think what the majority of optimists relate to, probably more than talking about it and getting some healing from talking about it, like you and I do, Adam. That's the way we're wired. Some people are wired completely differently, and we know the majority of people in our community don't comment to us. They aren't wired that they want to talk about it, but they're listening, and they keep listening. And we know they do because they're out there and the numbers are there. And we aren't reducing y'all to a number, but that's what we know about you. We know that you keep listening, and the people that do talk about that say, hey, I'm not one to comment on it, but this has helped me I don't want or need to talk about situation, but hearing others talk about their situation tells me I'm not as messed up, or I'm not as alone, I'm not as different. It's a place to come. It's safe where I can relate to it and not be different because I've had these traumas or these situations in my own family. And we are thrilled that the community provides that for those people. You don't have to comment to be a part of the community, to be an optimist, or to benefit from it. And we are glad to hear that. That's validation for all of us. But the people that do talk or want to talk about it, we certainly want to hear that, because hearing about it does the same thing for them and for others. Now, here's a comment I tried to figure out. So, Ron, give us a little more on your question here. I didn't quite get it. There's an unprecedented involvement in the extended family's involvement in podcasts. Well, there certainly is in this case. I know in the Daybell Vallow case. Is this something we should all expect in future cases, or did everyone catch Lori's feel the fire bug? Not sure what the feel the fire bug is referring to, so please give us a little more information. But I think as podcasts are more popular now, certainly there's a lot more people talking about their situation. There's a lot more. The true crime world is huge. The interest is huge for all the various reasons that we've talked about many times. So I think we're going to hear more and more about this. And there's got to be more to it, even in our family, because there are more trials to come. And so that's not going away like we wish it would. Adam, I want you to comment on this too. I've had such a different experience after Chad's trials ended. He got his sentence. This is different than after Lori's, and I feel there's not as much angst after this, at least for me personally. It affected me differently. It was darker, even though I didn't know Chad. But now there's a little more. Maybe it's because I know at least he's going to face justice. Lori's facing justice. Have you had any effect like that after Chad's? And now I'm not quite as anxious about it. Or is it because we've done some healing? What do you think?
I think there's probably a little bit of both. Obviously, you and I, since we're doing this podcast, we're coming up on a year. Maybe next week would be a year or something like that. That obviously both of us have healed from that. And then since we already went through Lori's trials experience, Chad's trial was, I think we kind of were just going through the motions, and then we heard some things and figured things out, and everybody still has their own opinions on what happened, who's involved, who's not involved. But yeah, I'm not as, I think Lori's trial took enough out of me to where I was like pins and needles, and then now it's like I think I'm over that. So Chad's trial didn't really affect me. I'm glad that he's getting the justice he deserves, and Lori's getting the justice that she deserves. So, I think everything's going as planned as it should. There's been no surprises.
Right. There's been some information that's been surprising, but no surprises in the outcome for
right.
Ana Franco said a piece of paper will not stop a perpetrator. I think referring to the restraining order that the person in St. George had, and that's unfortunately true, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a thing I was talking to somebody else about, is if you're in danger, or you have that gut feeling and you try to tell people I'm in danger, there's something bad's going to happen to me. Almost like when Charles was telling the police, I think my wife could kill me. The way she's talking, I have an intuition that I feel like she could kill me. Well, and then you tell the police that, and well, what do you get? A restraining order or whatever it is. Restraining order is a piece of paper. The person, just like that girl who killed in St. George, what's going to stop? A piece of paper is not going to stop somebody once they have that rage and they want to go kill, or whatever the thing may be. So yeah, it's the I mean, that's something that you can go, maybe it scares some people off if you get a restraining order against them, but mental illness bypasses a piece of paper every time, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, um, restraining order is about as much as you can do legally at that point. When someone's threatened, that's as much as you can do. You can't arrest the person, apparently.
Right.
And even with Lori's situation with Charles, Lori said in writing, she told Charles this, that I can murder you.
Yeah.
The threat. So I guess you can't arrest them for the threat. So restraining order, of course, the police are going to say that's all they can do legally. Is get a restraining order, and that's all the police can tell you to do because they can't do anything else based on someone threatening you.
Well, here's the difference in that case, because pre-Charles getting killed, he went to the police. He was telling them all that. That's all on video. It should be all written down somewhere. And then when he gets killed, that investigation, it wasn't even close to being a good investigation. And they had all that extra stuff from before.
Yeah,
that's embarrassing to the police department that handled that whole situation.
Right. Now, in fairness, they didn't have it the day of. It came out over time, so they didn't. The people that investigated, that were there on the scene, didn't have the body cam from when.
Well, I'm sure if they go back and they're like, well, he was killed, and who's this Charles? Oh, well, we have him 4 weeks ago saying that his wife could murder him and that she was saying she was somebody else. There wasn't even any investigation of that. Like there was the police. When you think of police work, you would think that you could go like, oh, this guy got killed. It looks like it's self-defense, but let's find out who this Charles Vallow is. And then see that in the last 4 weeks, Charles Vallow, police were called to his house. Oh, what was this about? Oh, well, he was saying that his wife stole his car and said that she was going to kill him. Why? How can that pass through? How could that not get through there?
Yeah, well, I guess it took some time, but none of us think that was the great example of good police work there. Kathy explains a little bit of the earlier comment that I had a question on. Melanie and Lori did a podcast on Melanie Gibbs' book, Feel the Fire. Okay, that's what he was referring to earlier. It's on YouTube. So that was the question on Feeling Lori's Fire. Thanks for offering that up, Kathy. I had.
By the way, I never watched any of Lori's podcasts. She told me that she was doing some podcast, and I had no idea where to find it, where to look for it. Never watched anything. So I've never heard her on a podcast talking about dark spirits or any of that stuff. I've never. Have you, Rex?
No, I didn't listen. I did. I shouldn't say that. I listened to a segment, probably 3 or 4 minutes of Lori's Warrior Up podcast. So that was one.
So did Lori had her own podcast, or she was part of it?
She would do podcasts. She didn't have a regular. Well, I don't know. Maybe she did have a regular weekly, but I only heard one excerpt of one of them, or listened to one excerpt of one of them.
And did it sound odd to you, or?
No, I think when she was speaking like that in the public, they do what they do, just like Chad speaking at a Prepare the People conference versus a little group of his followers in someone's living room.
Yeah.
Much more orthodox speaking in a public forum rather than speaking to a group of his close, cronies, followers, whatever.
So that was the same. That was the same for Lori too. It was just more of a basic, whatever.
Yeah, second coming's coming. We all need to be vigilant and.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So, Betty Lester asks, "Have y'all heard about the shooting in Fortis, Kansas? So senseless. 3 deceased. Only one. One was young, 23-year-old woman with a 10-month-old baby. I haven't heard about that.
No.
Frankly, I don't listen to the news that much because I don't want to hear stories like this. I mean, I haven't. The news has so many stories like this. It's just but it is very tragic.
There's so much tragedy and so much craziness in the world now, and sadness, and a lot of people have trauma. I just heard a story about a family. This man and this woman got married. They both brought children into it. Like, he must have had 2 or 3 kids and she had 2 or 3 kids. They went to the beach. They went the 2 of the older adult kids and the parents, they were like 51 and 50, got into, and the red flag was up at the beach. So where the current, takes you, the riptide can take you out. As soon as they got in, the riptide took all of them out. The 2 older sons or children that were in their 20s, I guess, or 30s, managed to get out, but they couldn't get the parents, and the parents were just swept out, and there was nothing anybody could do, and they died. So there they are to go to the beach as a family to go do this. And then something like that happens. The trauma, all that happens that day that the rest of that family has to experience. It's heartbreaking. I know people think our family is heartbreaking, which it is, but there's so much heartbreak that goes on all the time with different family members, which is another reason I think that Rex and I doing this podcast, having family members of people who have gone through some tragic things, maybe it can help other people. I don't know, but I feel like, these are the kind of things that people have to deal with. Wake up the next day and hopefully that was you thought it was like a nightmare. Like I used to, pray. I go to bed at night, wake up and thinking it was a nightmare. And when you wake up and it's reality, it's just really, really hard to deal with. So there's a lot of family members that have to deal with a hard reality of life. And it's hard.
Hard and harsh. Boy, isn't that the truth? By all means here, LS, aka Chester's mom, says, I know a wonderful trauma therapist who I'm sure would come on as a guest. She is special like you gents. Thank you for the compliment, and definitely send us contact information. You may want to check with that trauma therapist, but we would love to have this trauma therapist on. We're going to have more professional resources on, especially on Patreon. That's a place there'll be a lot of professional resources, but here in this community too. And so we would like that if you'd email us at rexandadam@gmail.com. The contact information, would be glad to have them on too. We want optimists on and resources for healing from trauma and from tragedies like this. So thank you for that idea. If you would check with them and let us know, would be glad to have them on. To get maybe on a lighter subject from that, not that we have to stay on a lighter subject, but we have been talking about the heavy subject.
We'll go all over the place. We'll be everywhere.
I went to a wedding. Lisa and I went to a wedding last weekend. Dear friend of ours got married, later in life, kids from both families. The last story we had here and is a beautiful wedding, is in a home. The setting was perfect. The person's home, the bride's sister is a decorator. Everything was immaculate and perfect, and the wedding went off perfectly. But something Lisa and I laughed about on the way home. The bride and the groom had taken ballroom dance lessons together. So of course, the traditional first dance, they go out there and show off their skills, and they were very skilled. They did let's see, was it a waltz or a foxtrot? But anyway, their position was just right and, very impressive. However, I'm thinking that they probably used the song the way they learned it in their class and wanted to use the same song because they knew the whole dance. It was a long one, and they danced all the way through, the only ones on the floor. So, of course, all eyes on them. Didn't make any mistakes. They were flawless. But we wondered, do they realize that the song they used is a breakup song for their wedding? It's hard enough to marry and combine families anyway, marry for a second marriage or a third marriage. And
Yeah.
We're just thinking, using a breakup song may not be the best omen for your wedding, but they danced to it perfectly. So
to be honest with you, Rex, I was a radio DJ for, 25, 30 years, and I was around music all the time, and people were like, oh, you must know every song. I was like, I know the title and I know the artist. If I can hear a song, I could tell you the name of the artist, the name of the title. But you tell me I don't know one lyric to that song or what that song's about. Not one. So I'm sure that this couple is like, oh, this song sounds good. I like it. They never listened to the lyrics. They have no idea what it's about.
And if I could remember the song, everyone would recognize it. It was a hit song in its day.
Was it country or was it top 40 or what?
It's like a pop song.
A pop song, okay.
But it is a breakup song, but
Achy Breaky Heart by Billy Ray Cyrus.
Yeah, that's a little bit country there. Okay, so Jim thinks that we need an Optimus bumper stickers. Kimberly, we'll turn that over to you. Kimberly, who does the merch as a merch.
Hold on, time out. Do people still put bumper stickers on their cars? I don't think so.
Some people do. And it's entertaining for the rest of us. When
was the last time you saw a bumper sticker on the back of somebody's car?
I've seen them last week around town. There's somewhere like 5 bumper stickers. So I guess the people that still do it really go for it.
So you'll see one car with 20 bumper stickers and 500 cars with nothing. And it's probably
on average, it's still normal.
Is it all political? Is it all Trump stuff? Or is it like just funny little things?
These were a mix. There's some political, some fun and funny stuff. And of course, we love the funny stuff. In fact, I'll never forget in our big church conference, our church is a worldwide church and they have a worldwide conference. And one of the top leaders got up and talked about a bumper sticker that I still love. He said, he saw the bumper sticker recently. This was just only a few years ago. Saw the bumper sticker recently and was on the car of a driver who had gone through the hard version of life. You could tell they were a little hardened by life. And the bumper sticker said, "Don't judge me just because I choose to sin differently than you do."
Like it.
I thought that's perfect. Adam and I have said many times on this show, we don't spend a whole lot of energy judging other people because, we don't have enough energy just to battle our own flaws, and so there's little left to judge other people. But I thought that was a great message to hear in any church at any time.
Well, when I was married, there were times where she would judge me, and if I said anything about her, then it would be like, no, it's not that. So you're talking about judging other people's sins. So some people you may do something that somebody thinks is really, really bad, but then you could be doing something that they think is just as bad or worse. But it's a perspective on that. So that bumper sticker really hit home.
Yep, exactly. So Kathy McDowell says, I've enjoyed listening and learning from you both and others. Perhaps we'll share in the future too. Thanks for the forum to consider doing so. Yes, and you're welcome to do so as long as we have a forum. And Adam and I were talking about this after our podcast on Tuesday. We said, okay, interest will probably taper off. People get tired of hearing me talk about following your conscience, which is the only advice I have. And, someday Adam will get married, and so people might lose interest in him. So when will we know that enough is enough and to stop this? And, our conclusion was, Adam, you can back me up on this, as long as there are people saying this is helping me so much for whatever reason, and we don't really get all of the reasons for which people are getting help from the podcast, but we certainly don't want to walk away from it when it's helping so many people. And y'all are so generous of your thanks, your gratitude, and your praise for having the podcast. I don't know how we'd ever walk away from that, Adam. We reasons sometime, but As
Yeah.
long as it's helping people.
You and I were saying, well, as long as there's one person, at least one person that this helps, then we'd be willing to do it. So
Yeah,
that's
what's
where
the number of subscribers that makes it too few to do? Is it 5,000, 500, 5? We don't know. We don't know, but it'd be hard
our podcast is really different than the most podcasts out there. I think, obviously there's people that are doing podcasts for a living. You and I are not doing a podcast for a living. I have 3 full-time jobs and you have 2 big jobs. So, yeah, I think where people want, we got to have numbers to make money on podcasts and stuff. You and I we're not in that field. So I think with that comes like, our numbers don't really matter. We just know that there's a community that feels like this is a safe place, and you and I providing it for people, and just kind of like hosting it. That's it.
Very good. Now, Ron, who asked the question earlier that I didn't quite get, explains a little bit. And thank you, Ron, for doing that. We've never seen the direct family in a case has so much participation in podcasts. Now, it's funny because we did the podcast originally, to get input for the book. But the reason we were encouraged by some of our mentors in the podcast world, they said, you guys need to, because no one in Lori's family is speaking out. And so when my 3 daughters and I went to Lori's trial for a few days, there is a whole lot of media attention because we were the only ones that are members of Lori's family that came just to the trial, not testify. And after the trial, there were a lot of media requests because we were the only ones that would talk to the media at the time. Now, that's not completely true. Adam and Janice and Summer all participated in some documentaries there. But I think direct family, I know Kresha has a podcast. Megan has come on the scene since Lori's podcast. So I don't know how it is anywhere else because I haven't looked around to see how many family members do this. But yeah, and I don't know if they'll continue, if that'll be a trend, if other people will want to do it. If they're interested in making money, maybe they'll look at us and realize, that's not going to make too much money if I do that. So we'll see. We'll see if that's the case or not. And who knows, maybe more of our family members will get a podcast. I don't know. I kind of doubt it because our family's pretty burned out on those of us that are making this public. Not all family members like that. What do you think, Adam?
Totally true. But, podcasting now, like back in the day when I was in radio was your form of entertainment, your form of music. Now anybody can have a podcast. There's millions of podcasts out there because people are like, I want to do a podcast. And most of them last about a month or 2 months and then it fizzles out and they're done with it. So we've been going pretty strong, 2 podcasts at least a week for a year. I feel like we've been pretty consistent. And I think I've mentioned this before, that Rex is probably one of the most consistent people I've ever been around. So it doesn't surprise me. If it was just me doing the podcast, this thing would have been over a long time ago. But I feel like, you can get some good information on podcasts. And some people just want to hear people talk, and everybody has their own vibe. So yeah, good luck to anybody who wants to do a podcast, whoever listens to podcasts. Thank you for watching our podcast if you enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Lars 9999 says, do you have faith that justice will be served for Charles? I have faith that justice will ultimately be served out of this life for all of us, including those who participated in Charles' murder. But I know, Lars, you're referring to the trial. Since we know Alex had a big part of that and he's already facing ultimate justice, we're confident in that. I wish that we knew all the details so we could know everyone who was involved in that or who consented to it. What's the right word? We're complicit in it. So
Yeah.
we would know if they all met justice. I don't think we're going to know that. I hope we do. I hope that comes out. But I'm not confident that everyone who consented to it or who was complicit in it will be. What do you think, Adam?
Well, I think to a degree, obviously Charles needs his own trial because it's his story is different than everybody else. Everybody has their own story. But because of Lori and Alex and Chad, in my opinion, all three of them had high, things to do with the death, obviously. Chad's going to be is death sentence. Lori's going to be in jail the rest of her life, and Alex is dead. So, as far as justice goes, nobody's going free. Now, if we don't get like whatever it is actually at Chad or at Charles's trial, that this evidence isn't submissive or this, there's still their justice is being served. All three people, in my opinion, that are involved, that were like the main people in it, are getting what they deserve. Or Alex is dead, Lori's in jail the rest of her life, and Charles or Chad's getting the death penalty. So in a certain way, yes, justice is served in that way.
So I'm going to stretch that, Lars, if you don't mind me piggybacking on your question, because that raises the question of Brandon. And to me, Brandon is a victim who's equally deserving of justice. The fact that he wasn't killed, thank heavens, literally, thank God that they missed by 2 inches or whatever it was. But he's a victim also because he lost the family unit that he originally had. The terror that goes along with that, I don't know how that you ever overcome that. All the questions he has about Melanie and the kids, etc. That's going to be long, long lasting, probably the rest of his life. So I'm hoping he gets justice too, not according to my definition, but whatever Brandon's definition of justice is. I hope he gets that as a victim, as I would for any victim, but he's a direct victim. So I would hope for that also. I don't know if that will happen. We'll just have to find out. Adam, any comment on that, or do you want to?
No, that's exactly how I feel too.
Okay. Here's an optimist story right here from Michael Simpson. I had a brother who went off the rails and ended up murdering his wife. I thought we were a pretty normal family. I've got a comment on that. It took a lot of therapy to break things down and realize my mother was a narcissist. So I'm not in a position to judge given the family I'm in, that Adam and I are in, but it's tough to say what's a normal family. I think a lot of optimists would weigh in and say, yeah, we were a normal family, but we had someone that went off the rails, and of course, people that haven't had that in their immediate family will say, oh, good, we're a normal family then because we haven't had someone go off the rails. But, Adam, you've been fighting the battle trying to tell people you enjoyed your life up until this, your family life. You enjoyed it up until all this stuff went down with Lori and then with Alex. So you would call it a normal family up till then because that's what you knew. And people battle you and try to tell you you didn't have a good family life. You didn't enjoy your life.
I couldn't see. I was too close to it. I couldn't see all the things that are going wrong. Unfortunately, like if one person out of 10 people in a family, one person out of 10 does something horrific, then the other 9 are judged because of what that one person did. And you're all judged. We're all put into this microscope, and they're like, something had to have happened in your childhood for this to happen, and you guys should have seen it. And you guys, that's been my experience of what listening to people say that. And I'm sure this person probably has the same exact thing. Is like, how do you know if somebody goes off the rails? If something must have been, my parents were terrible parents, we were terrible kids, we did terrible things, like everything is terrible, terrible, terrible. It wasn't like normal life, and then two people in our family went haywire.
Of course, two is greater than the normal odds, but still, not everyone in your family turns out to be a serial killer.
Right.
So it's just hard to define normal in these contexts. Okay, but Michael says it took a lot of therapy to break things down and realize my mother was a narcissist. So now you're looking at another family member and the effect that family member had. That's tough to come to grips with. That's tough to deal with. And it takes some experience. In Michael's case, it was therapy. I'm reading into it that you're talking professional therapy with a therapist, and we've been talking about that for quite a while. There's so many different types of therapy, and some people choose not to go to a professional therapist, but like Adam are still getting therapy and may choose to still do that at some point. There are just a lot of parts to this, are there not, Michael, that no one pre-sees, what's the right word for that? No one anticipates in life that your family is going to end up like this. And so those of you that don't have anyone in your immediate family that's done this, you're probably counting your blessings right now, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
A follow-up while we're talking about you, Adam. Nana Hyatt asks, Adam, how seriously did you take the threat on... Adam, how seriously did you take the threat on your life?
Well, I didn't even know there was a threat on my life.
Okay.
Like I told you that. The first time I found out about it was watching that Netflix series. That was the first I knew that Lori was texting Alex saying that I was a zombie and that, brother's a Z and, it's got to go or whatever. That was the first time I've heard of it. We were kind of scared when Charles was killed. Rex and I talked about that immediately. We knew that Lori and Alex murdered him. We just felt that. So if they could murder Charles, then they could murder us, especially since we weren't agreeing to what they were doing or whatever they were talking about. So living in Kansas at the time, I remember going home and we locked the doors, we kept our windows shut, we kept thinking that Al may be out there with a gun and maybe try to pick us off for some reason. But after like a month of that, I was like, well, there's no really reason for them to kill us. There's no money. They can't get any money out of it. So I was going back and forth in my mind during that time. And then after that, I was like, oh, they're not after us. I don't even know what they're doing. This is way before the kids or way before Tammy, all that. So I didn't really know there was a legitimate threat until that Netflix show came out.
Well, you have said that you didn't really relax, or what was the term used, until Alex died, till you heard Alex was dead.
Yeah, there's always in the back of my mind going, what are they up to? Like not knowing what they're up to, but it was high alert for like the first month as soon as after Charles was dead, maybe 2 months or 3 months. I don't, time goes by like crazy. So I'm not good with giving time descriptions, but after a certain amount of time, I felt like, well, they're, who knows what they're doing. Or I thought, well, that could have been just a one and done trying to get, Charles's $1 million. But once I found out Alex was dead, then there was a relief going, well, I don't have to wonder or worry about that anymore, even though it started lowering and lowering after, the first 3 or 4 months.
Okay, so I'm gonna take the same question from Nana Hyatt, and since she said, "Did you take the threat on his life?" and we don't know who it is. See, I didn't know that Lori had said that she had told Charles that she could murder him. I believe I heard that after he was murdered. Okay. How about you? Did you hear it? Had Charles told you that Lori told him that? And if so, how seriously did you take it? And I'm asking this because one of those things that people don't have a hard time getting in mind when they didn't live the timeline, they just got all the information, as a dump after the fact.
Right.
And they don't realize we didn't know any of this was serious, like murder was really involved, because you can always say, well, she's not seriously talking about actually killing him until Charles was killed.
Yeah.
That's when murder came on the table. What was your thought on Lori threatening to murder Charles?
Well, no, I'm sure Charles, when he would tell me about things that Lori was saying, weird things like she was married to Nephi and she doesn't need him anymore. Those things hurt his feelings. I know that. And then I'm not sure timeline either. When Lori said, I can murder you if I want, or any of that. But obviously it was before he was murdered. But again, Lori also said the end of the world was coming 4 different dates, which never happened. So again, Lori's talking out of one side of her mouth when nothing else happens, and she's really not doing anything but trying to predict the end of the world and stuff. So I don't think anybody took anything Lori said seriously before Charles was dead. It was just like Lori wants attention. Lori's, wants to be the person to predict the end of the world or whatever it is. So nobody took it seriously, anything that she must have said.
And that's for people who don't quite, it's all one time frame to them. So everyone should have known that Lori was a killer. No, we didn't take any of that seriously at the time.
Yeah.
Lee says, did you see Detective Hermosillo's interview? I watched part 1 of this. I haven't watched much, but I watched part 1 of this because Detective Ray Hermosillo became kind of the face of the army of law enforcement for us. So I have such high respect for him. Did you see Detective Hermosillo's interview where he was worried for his family and his life and had been going home different routes home until Alex died because he was on the dark list? See, this is the collateral damage of these crimes. We aren't thinking about the law enforcement and their family. What they're going through because of this. The people that worked for Brandon were scared to go to work because some madman might come in the shop looking for Brandon, shooting things up. And their families, these are all people that are traumatized. This is all collateral damage, and people are traumatized by this. Can you imagine the fear of being in his family and being on that dark list, that hit list? Yeah, good. Thanks for bringing that up, Lee. Because that's what Adam described. He was feeling that, when he is there in Kansas, you just don't know. You don't know what's happening and who's going to do what and maybe what they're capable of. Oh, Dorothy says,
and who you can talk to, who you can trust, who's in on it, who's not in on it. You don't know anything. And so you're afraid to tell anybody anything.
So Adam calls Kay pretty early in the process. Adam's is in the Cox family. Does Kay trust Adam? Does she know why he's calling? You always wonder, are they as genuine as they seem, or are they just trying to get information from me? It was hard on everyone in this scenario because you don't know who is siding with whom. You don't know if there are sides. And if there are sides, whose side you're on. Just a very, very tough time. And that's why it's tough for family members to take so much uninformed crap from so many people just saying, well, you should have known this. You should have done this. I would have done this. I would have asked Lori. I would have. It's hard to take that when they didn't live it. And they're just saying it out of ignorance.
Yeah.
Oh, Dorothy says, window sticker is what we use now. That's true. A lot more window stickers than bumper stickers, aren't there?
I see some window stickers that has the mom, the dad, and the kids, and then the dog or whatever.
Yeah, and funny variations of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, let's see. Since we're on Adam a little bit here, or the subject of Adam, Teresa Warner wants to know, Adam, how many weddings have you DJ'd?
Oh, probably 25.
Yeah, quite a few.
Something like that. Yeah. It's about a year and a half. I DJ'd weddings on the weekends. I had a great time doing it. I loved it. Obviously I was divorced and people were getting ready to get married. I'm like, don't do it. No, I didn't. But and it's funny that everybody has, different genres of music that they like. I've seen tons of different, variations of dances and choreographies and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, weddings are always a blast.
Okay, then. Have you ever played a breakup song for the first dance of a couple?
No, but I remember there was a couple of weddings where they wanted me to play some songs that were like kind of crazy, and I was like, "Are you sure?" Because when you have like grandma and grandpa there, and you want this song played, are you sure? And then, sure enough, grandma and grandpa come up to the DJ booth. Why would you play that song? And I get to be I'm the bad guy. And I was like, I told them not to play it, but they wanted to play it. And I was like, oh, there we go.
You're getting paid to be the bad guy. It's okay. From our good friend, Ali79, this podcast and the Optimist change lives that you may never be made aware of.
Yay. Thank you, Ali.
We read that. Thank you, Rach. We appreciate that and your friendship.
She wants us to call her Ali or Rachel. Which one? Rachel.
Well, in this case, Ali. Let's just call her 79 in this case. Ron is back. Lori is obviously experiencing serious historic mental issues. Boy, that's a good way to describe it. I hope she continues to live in her delusion and not one day wake up. What are your thoughts on that, Adam? We've talked about that.
People talk about that all the time. And I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't think it's going to happen. I think she's going to just be in La La Land the rest of her life. That's it. There's no coming out of it for her. She's all in on that.
Because what would happen, we speculate on this. What would happen if she came out of her delusion?
Well, I mean, if she realized that, Chad wasn't hierarchy to God and like all the things that he told her that, was everything going to plan? Yes, all that. If she realizes that all that was just a bunch of nonsense, which we all know it was, and that she did all the things that she did with him, I'm sure that, it would kill her. Like she would, it would just, I don't know if her mind would let her do that. Because I don't know. I'm not a psychiatrist, but I don't even know how how that even works.
Yeah, and hopefully we won't have to find out because we just stay away from that. Violet says, not sure if you've had the chance to see Gigi's podcast. We love Gigi and her. She's not Hidden Gem. She's Pretty Lies and Alibis, her alibiers. Lieutenant Ray Hermosillo thinks there's one more person who needs to be charged in Idaho. Those are the questions I have. Who else knew, was complicit, participated, if they were ritualistic killings? Who else? So yet to be seen. I hope we get answers. Anything on that one, Adam?
No, I agree with.
Okay. Woes reward, Adam. CC Denver is going to send you a Colorado bumper sticker. CC, maybe you should send it to me so I make sure it gets on Adam's bumpers.
Hey, look at this hat. Look at this hat.
Colorado.
I got that when I was at the Denver airport.
Okay. Needed a hat, probably to come on the show.
Representing Colorado, Rocky Mountain High. I've been to two cities. I've been to Durango and Denver. That's it.
Yeah, let me let me stick up a little for the Daybell family here. I don't know the Daybell family, but Teresa Warner, and we appreciate this comment, Teresa, and the thoughts behind it. So I'm not saying anything, there's anything wrong with the comment, but it bothers me that people are so judgmental to the Cox family, but not the Daybell family. I'm just bothered that people are so judgmental, period. When they, when we've never been in someone else's situation. And I don't wish judgment on the Daybell family. You probably don't either, Teresa. I just wish people would not, and people are judgmental based on information they think they have, or they think that's in context from whatever source. And I'll tell you, there is, from our perspective, and we're the same way, we don't have much information that's in context. That's why we don't give a lot of judgment on other people for that reason. Some people were pretty judgmental about Lori, Alex, Chad, okay? But it's just hard to judge when we found out early on that we know so little about what actually, and we still today know so little about what's going on. How about we just give the people that aren't up on charges and obviously guilty, let's give everyone a break, why don't we? And I'll follow that admonition too. To whatever degree I've been judgmental about people, I'm willing to try to lead out in that and not be quite as judgmental about things that aren't factually laid out there. I didn't ask that of you, Adam, because I don't know that you've been judgmental like I have. So I'll just leave that alone. And it looks like let's see, how are we doing on time? Yeah, we're a little bit over an hour. And we have, I've got my brother's birthday is today, his 75th birthday. I hope I live that long. And I've got to hurry and get over there because at age 75,
bedtime's in 30 minutes.
Well, no, I'm thinking it's a minute by minute thing on if you're going to last till tomorrow. So to get over there and wish him happy birthday because you never know,
Yeah.
But please, as we started talking about here, and there's some comments here, really touching, tragic situations. We do want to hear more from Optimus. Please email us at rexandadam@gmail.com. As we started out saying, we're hoping to keep this a safe place. That's our intent. Keep this a safe place where anyone can connect about while going through whatever your trauma, whatever your tragedies are, and find support and healing. Adam, the last word.
Yeah. Just tell everybody, like, you spread the word about the podcast. There's a lot of people out there that maybe don't know about it. It's a safe place. It's a place to come for support, love. We want to keep spreading that for people that need it. Healing, this actually helps people heal. We don't know how, but it does. So just tell people about the podcast, and that's it.
And those of you in Patreon, we'll get to talk with you tomorrow evening. We're really looking forward to that. Take care.